right, Black and White Sports Reporters, let's talk about the Indiana Fever, the Phoenix Mercury, Major League Baseball, Arizona Diamondbacks. Let's start with Kayleigh Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Indiana Fever had practice today. Kayleigh Clark did not practice. Neither did Sophie Cunningham.
Kayleigh Clark not practicing. Sophie Cunningham not practicing. And now the Arizona Diamondbacks just handed a first pitch to the woman who punched Clark in the throat. Something is burning in the WNBA right now, and it didn't start today.
No practice today for Sophie Cunningham. Illness. Kayleigh Clark back. Fever with their first of 4 days of practice during the Commissioner's Cup break. Demarius Dantes also getting some individual treatment. So that's pretty wild. I would assume if they'd have had a game today, Kayleigh Clark wouldn't have played. I don't guess Sophie Cunningham would have played either. Good Lord, would there have been any reason to tune in for that game? My guess would be no.
8 days. That's the number that changes everything here. The Indiana Fever don't play again until Sunday. And if Kayleigh Clark is still on the sideline when that game tips off, we are no longer talking about a minor injury. We are talking about a situation. And the part that should actually alarm you isn't just whether she plays Sunday. It's what the Diamondbacks just did in Phoenix that reveals exactly how tone-deaf this whole ecosystem has gotten. We'll get there. But first, let's talk about what's actually happening on the practice floor. Sophie Cunningham ruled out, illness, which happens. Kayleigh Clark ruled out, injury, which also happens. Demarius Dantes getting individual treatment on top of that. 3 players not at full capacity in the middle of a Commissioner's Cup break when you've got 4 full practice days before your next game. That is not ideal. And for a Fever team that has leaned hard on Clark to be the engine of everything they do offensively, her missing that practice isn't just a headline, it's a real question about her availability going forward.
Now, guys, I'm going to tell you, if Kayleigh Clark doesn't play on Sunday after 8 days, oh shit, something's going on. It's going to be an official code red. What the hell's happening? How hurt is she? Is she, is this something besides an injury? I mean, honestly, is she trying to be traded out of town? I mean, you got to start asking all kinds of questions.
There it is. 8 days becomes the line in the sand, because this isn't about one missed practice. It's about what Sunday means if she's ruled out. You start running through the math. If she doesn't suit up after 8 days away, this goes from she's managing something to what are they not telling us? And that's not paranoia. That's just how sports works. We've seen teams manage information, manage the media, and manage the timeline around an injury in ways that eventually reveal something much bigger. The Fever have every incentive to protect that information, but they have very little room left if Sunday comes and goes with Clark in street clothes.
Yes, I believe he's in Arizona. I may be wrong, but I think he is. He works for Outkick. The Arizona Diamondbacks invited Alyssa Thomas, who punched Kayleigh Clark in the throat, to throw out the first pitch tonight. She's being treated like a hero. Now, look, I did a little research. I think last night was Phoenix Mercury Night, all right, at the Arizona Diamondbacks ballpark. However,
Alyssa Thomas, first pitch, Arizona Diamondbacks. Let's just sit with that for a second. This wasn't some random outside hire or a celebrity who doesn't follow basketball. This was a deliberate promotional appearance. Mercury Night at the ballpark, which is a real thing and a real partnership between teams sharing a market. But here's what matters. The Diamondbacks had options. Every team that comes through for a night promotion sends multiple players. You pick who you feature. You make choices, and the choice that got made here was to put Alyssa Thomas, the same player who was caught on video making contact with Kayleigh Clark's throat, front and center for a ceremonial pitch that would be photographed and broadcast. Whether it was intentional or not, it doesn't matter. The optics are a disaster. And it was Mercury Night is not a defense. It's an explanation, and those are two different things.
And I believe Kayleigh Copper also threw out the pitch, and she's in this video. But you know what could have been done? pivot away from Alyssa Thomas. So if Kayleigh Clark fans or whatever fans destroy the Arizona Diamondbacks for this, you get what you get. I mean, if you can't read the room, if you can't understand perception and optics as a sports franchise at this point, and how bad a taste it looks after what Alyssa Thomas did to Kayleigh Clark, if you can't read the room, that is a you problem and a big one. All right? That is a you problem. Mercury Night or not, I'm willing to bet you there's more than just two players on the Phoenix Mercury team. I'm just guessing that they could have hauled out there instead of thuggish ruggish bone out here that they decided to pull out here for this first pitch, right?
Reading the room. That's the phrase, and it applies here in a way that goes beyond just this one moment. We are in a period right now where Kayleigh Clark's fan base, and by extension, the casual audience that tuned in to the WNBA specifically because of her, is watching everything. Every decision, every promotion, every ceremonial appearance. They're watching for signals. And when the signal you send is, we're going to feature the player who had that moment with Clark as a hero in a ballpark full of cameras, you don't get to be surprised when that fan base responds with anger. This is not complicated. Whoever in the Diamondbacks organization approved this either didn't think it through or didn't think the Clark fan base would care. Both options reflect a serious gap in awareness for a professional sports franchise in 2025. And notice, there was another player in that same clip. Kayleigh Copper also threw out a pitch, so the team wasn't locked into Alyssa Thomas. They had flexibility. They made a call, and that call is going to cost them something, even if it's just goodwill they can't afford to lose.
Sophie Cunningham just kept it real about the Phoenix Mercury organization.
You know what's funny, though? That I know people in their own organization that, like, nobody likes their team this year. They say that they are, like, the unfriendliest group. So we're not the only ones who feel that way. Internal people feel that way.
Wow. Wow.
Here's where this gets interesting. Sophie Cunningham didn't just make a passing comment about the Mercury. She said, on the record, in public, that people inside the Phoenix Mercury organization don't like this team. That the players on this current roster are described by people who work for that franchise as unfriendly and unprofessional. That's not a rival player talking trash. That's a woman who played for that organization, who has done courtside work for the Suns, who has genuine connections inside that building, saying something she had to know would land like a grenade. And that tells you something. When you've got internal staff, people who work for the Mercury, not opponents, not media members with an agenda, reportedly feeling that way about the players they serve every day, that's a cultural problem. You can't fake your way out of a culture. It either works or it doesn't.
Grant Young posted this. I'm going to give him a shout out. Blind squirrel finds nut. People inside the Mercury organization can't stand this team. Rude, unprofessional, not friendly. Boy, they carry that over to the court, do they not? So, USA Today senior reporter. Boy, we're a long way from Christine Brennan right here. Megan L. Hall, women's sports. Of course, she's got an Asia Wilson quote. Guys, you don't hate the media enough. So she decides to slam Sophie Cunningham over making these comments.
Now comes the media response. And this is where it gets genuinely frustrating if you've been watching this space for any amount of time. A USA Today senior reporter, Megan L. Hall, came out and slammed Sophie Cunningham for making those comments, called it wildly unprofessional, said there's no scenario where a player should be saying this about an organization, went after Cunningham for turning her broadcast into what this reporter described as improper reporting. Let's think about that framing for a minute. The same media apparatus that has spent years telling us to listen to players, trust their voices, believe their lived experiences, that exact same apparatus is now drawing a very clear line. Speak your truth as long as it aligns with the approved narrative. Step outside it, and suddenly professionalism becomes the cudgel. Sophie Cunningham said something real. She said something sourced. She said something she had direct knowledge of, and the media response wasn't to investigate whether she was right, it was to silence her. That's not journalism. That's management.
Number one, this is wildly unprofessional. Why? To go out there and she's reporting something at this point. Sophie has literally turned her podcast in this moment into I'm reporting something. I've got a source, or source says, and look, Sophie Cunningham played in that organization, by the way. She played in that organization. I think she's done courtside. She's done courtside for the Suns. So she knows. There's no confusion here. Number two, how is this helping with the, quote, points at everything current discourse?
And here's the detail that makes this even richer. Sophie Cunningham played for the Phoenix Mercury. She's not speculating from the outside. She spent time in that building, in those locker rooms, in those film sessions. When she says people inside the organization feel a certain way about this team, she's not parroting a rumor. She's drawing on direct experience and, reportedly, direct conversations with current staff. There's also the meme, the Sophie Cunningham pointing meme, which at this point has taken on a life completely independent of its origin. That image is everywhere. It's become a cultural shorthand. And apparently some people in Phoenix are bothered by it, which, if true, tells you more about the Phoenix Mercury's relationship with self-awareness than anything Sophie Cunningham could have said out loud.
Number three, there is not any scenario that exists where a player should be saying this about any organization. Why not? I mean, you got a media member literally saying, don't go out there and I thought y'all cared about their truth. Our truth. What's going on? What's the problem? There is a thing, free speech. Okay, so she ain't going back to the Phoenix Mercury to play. That probably won't happen. Maybe. Maybe. Been out of shape because Sophie made some comments. God.
The reporter's third criticism of Sophie Cunningham was that there is not any scenario where a player should be saying this about any organization. And I want to focus on that line specifically, because it's revealing in a way the reporter probably didn't intend. Not any scenario. That's an absolute, and absolutes in media criticism are almost always wrong. There are plenty of scenarios where players should speak freely about organizations, when those organizations treat people poorly, when internal culture is damaging, when the information serves a genuine public interest. The WNBA is a professional sports league with millions of fans. The culture of its teams is not a protected internal secret. It's relevant information for anyone who follows the sport. What the reporter is really saying when she says not any scenario is not when it makes the league look bad. And that's not a journalism principle. That's a PR interest wearing journalism clothes. Sophie Cunningham has been in the league. She knows what she saw. She said it. The appropriate media response to that is to verify it, add context, and report it, not to scold the source for speaking.
And they do. I mean, there's only so many times you can listen to Ryan Clark ever talk about anything, or Stephen A. Smith. But WNBA media, and this shouldn't surprise considering how most of these players conduct themselves, that their media would be the lowest form of pond scum that is across the still stagnant water of the WNBA. Ugh.
The WNBA media ecosystem has a pattern, and it's worth naming clearly. The same reporters who amplify player voices when those voices push approved stories go silent or actively hostile when a player's voice complicates the narrative. We've seen it with contract disputes. We've seen it with team chemistry reports. And we're seeing it right now with Sophie Cunningham, whose comments were dismissed not because they were false, but because they were inconvenient. The notable thing here, the USA Today reporter included an Aja Wilson quote in her article, almost reflexively, as if the Wilson quote was the counter-anchor. Wilson is a legitimate star and a respected player, but using her as a rhetorical ballast every time something uncomfortable surfaces isn't journalism. It's deflection with a famous name attached. What would actual journalism look like here? It would look like someone calling people inside the Mercury organization and asking, "Is this accurate?" It would look like a follow-up story. It would look like curiosity, not condemnation.
And we'll keep talking about what you keep talking about. So she knows this. She's been told this. She's not allowed to say it. Please. All right. I've got no problems with this. I don't know about you guys. Tell me what you think.
Now step back and look at the full picture. You've got Kayleigh Clark missing practice with an injury that has no confirmed timeline. You've got Sophie Cunningham also out sick. You've got the Arizona Diamondbacks featuring Alyssa Thomas in a ceremonial first pitch appearance that blew up on social media. You've got a USA Today reporter publicly scolding a player for saying something sourced and honest. And you've got internal Mercury staff who reportedly can't stand the current roster. Any one of those storylines is a conversation. All 5 of them happening at the same time around the same cluster of people and teams and moments is something else. It tells you the WNBA, for all the genuine growth it's had in the Clark era, still has real structural problems that don't disappear just because the ratings are up. The growth is real. The audience is real. Clark's impact on the league's visibility is undeniable. But visibility and infrastructure are not the same thing. You can have more viewers than ever before and still have a culture inside your teams that alienates staff, a media apparatus that protects access over truth, and a promotional instinct that manages to step on rakes in slow motion while the cameras roll.
Okay, my ass. 0 dark 30 here. All right, you hear me? So this is going to get interesting. There's going to be a lot of days of practice. They don't play till Sunday. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you, if Kayleigh Clark doesn't play on Sunday after 8 days, oh shit, something's going on. It's going to be an official code red. What the hell's happening? How hurt is she?
Let's go back to Sunday, because that's the real deadline. If Kayleigh Clark plays, most of this week fades into background noise. Injury managed, player returns, story over. The Diamondbacks thing becomes a footnote. The Sophie Cunningham commentary becomes a talking point for a few days, not a sustained controversy. But if Clark doesn't play on Sunday, that changes the calculus entirely. Because then you're not talking about a routine injury anymore. You're talking about a situation that has stretched across a full Commissioner's Cup break through 4 days of practice without resolution. And at that point, the questions get harder. How serious is it? Why isn't there more information? And this is the uncomfortable one. Is there any chance this has become something bigger than a physical injury? Those questions aren't accusations. They're the natural result of a timeline that doesn't add up cleanly. And if Sunday comes and she's out, the people asking them aren't going to be satisfied with day-to-day as an answer.
Asking a question. So, guys, I keep telling you guys, you don't hate the media enough. Sophie Cunningham just kept it real about the Phoenix Mercury organization.
You know what's funny, though? That I know people in their own organization that, like, nobody likes their team this year. They say that they are, like, the unfriendliest group. So we're not the only ones who feel that way. Internal people feel.
The Sophie Cunningham story also has a future worth watching. She's not going back to Phoenix. That much seems obvious. But she's also not going away. She's building a media presence. She's doing courtside work. She's already demonstrated she's willing to say things on camera that other people in her position would carefully avoid. That's a rare quality in sports media, where access journalism has trained most commentators to protect relationships at the expense of honesty. If Cunningham keeps doing what she did this week, speaking directly about things she has actual knowledge of, she's going to become one of the more compelling voices covering this league. Not because she's controversial for controversy's sake, but because she's speaking from inside the experience, with specificity, without the usual protective hedging. That's valuable. And the fact that it drew a scolding from a senior reporter at a major outlet tells you exactly how uncomfortable it made the people who prefer the current arrangement.
Always drama. How many videos have we done on the media lately? Peace.
So where does this leave us? Kayleigh Clark's status is genuinely uncertain, and that uncertainty matters for reasons that go beyond this week's games. The Fever built their identity around her. Their promotional strategy, their ticket sales, their sponsorship conversations, all of it runs through that number 22. If she's out for an extended stretch, the downstream effects are real and measurable. The Diamondbacks took a hit they didn't need to take. In a market shared with the Mercury, in a moment where the Clark fanbase is watching everything with a critical eye, they chose the wrong player for the wrong moment. Whether that decision was careless or calculated doesn't matter much now. The reaction is the same either way. The media scolding of Sophie Cunningham failed to land where it was aimed. Instead of quieting the conversation, it extended it, drew more attention to her original comments, and made the reporter look like she was policing a message rather than evaluating a claim. That's the irony of that kind of response. It amplifies exactly what it's trying to suppress. And the Phoenix Mercury, reportedly described by their own staff as unfriendly and unprofessional, now get to carry that label into the rest of their season. Whether it's fair or not, perception becomes the story when no one inside the building comes out to credibly push back. The whole thing is messier than it needed to be. And it's messier specifically because the people who could have managed it, the Diamondbacks, the Mercury, the WNBA media apparatus, chose optics over honesty, access over accountability, and promotion over self-awareness every single time. So here's the question worth sitting with. If Kayleigh Clark plays Sunday and everything goes back to normal, does any of this actually get fixed? Or does the league just move on until the next version of this exact mess shows up 2 weeks later? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you already know what the answer probably is. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you next time.